Welcome back, friends. There are places that ask something of us, not with words, but with silence. The Carrizo Plain is one of those places. Stretching for miles beneath an endless sky, it has welcomed people for thousands of years. Each generation leaving behind memories, while the landscape quietly remained. The Chumash were the first to call this place home, and painted rock remains sacred to them today. Long before ranches, fences, or roads crossed the Carrizo Plain, this landscape was already home. As descendants gathered to honor that connection, they walked together to Painted Rock, a place of deep cultural and spiritual significance.
Before we go in, respect them. The tribes still use this space as a sacred space.
In January 17, 2001, President Clinton signed a proclamation making it a national monument. And so with that, we have developed a lot of partnerships and a lot of groups along the way that have helped develop the management of this special area.
Families gathered here this year to remember those who called this place home. Long before ranches, long before roads, long before visitors like me came looking for quiet, others already belonged to this land. Over time, new families arrived. They built homes, raised children, worked the land, watched seasons come and go. The ranches became more than buildings. They became part of who these families were.
So my name is Pam Parsons. I'm the great-great-granddaughter of Chester Rood Brumley. The Brumley family was considered the first Anglo family to be permanent settlers on the Carrizo Plains. My grandmother, Ivy Brumley Parsons, never spoke of her family to anybody. It wasn't until after she had died and later I got into doing research on my family that I found out what a rich history we had in this county. I want to dedicate my talk today to the firefighters and other responders to the July 2025 Madre fire that, as John was saying, it burned right up to the house. The house was saved. There was some damage to the porch down back in here and the back door that they've already repaired. So Chester Rood Brumley was born in 1825 in Charleston, New York, to a farming family. He came to California during the gold rush in October 1849 when he was just 24. He left New York in late February 1849 and the voyage around Cape Horn took 7.5 months. I'd like to think that he was successful as a miner, but in reality, very few people that came to the gold rush got rich. About 1872, he connected with James and Robert McDonald, who were very wealthy capitalists in San Francisco, and they were buying up land, mostly sight unseen, all across California. But out here, they bought between 60 and 90,000 acres, and Chester became their agent and manager of the land and the livestock. So in 1874, Chester Rood and his son Jerome came to San Luis Obispo to begin employment out here on the McDonald lands. So the Brumleys had lived in Brooklyn, New York. They'd lived in San Francisco, and now here they are. And if you look out around you, pretty much what you see is what they saw, minus the fences and the Goodwin Center. But I mean, it was very isolated then, and it's still very isolated, but very beautiful. And there was evidence that there was an adobe already somewhere in the vicinity that was built by J. Garcia, probably for workers. He lived in the Pozo area, but he would have raised sheep here, so he would have had workers, shepherds and vaqueros that there was probably an adobe built for. And he's related to the Garcias that we'll be speaking later.
I came back several months later. I set out looking for an old adobe. There isn't much written about it. There's something about forgotten places that has always drawn me in. I thought maybe this old building would help me understand what home really means. I'm out on the Carrizo Plain looking for a place to camp tonight. I wanted to stay near the ruins of an old adobe, but I'm having difficulty finding it. I checked Quail Springs Road without success, and now I'm on Padrones Road. Apparently there's a cemetery near here, so if I can't find the adobe, I might camp near the cemetery and try and find the adobe tomorrow. I searched for hours, road after road, turn after turn. Eventually, I had to admit I wasn't going to find it before sunset. So instead, I made camp on a quiet hill overlooking an old cemetery. It wasn't the plan, but maybe that's exactly the point. I've spent years traveling in search of beautiful places. Fire lookouts, mountain lakes, old cabins, ghost towns. I've always thought the destination was what mattered. But standing here, watching the sun sink over the Carrizo Plain, I began wondering if I'd been asking the wrong question. Not, where is home? But what is home? Home isn't always four walls. Sometimes it's wherever we finally stop trying to be somewhere else. This hill wasn't famous. It wasn't historic. No marker told me to stop here. Yet for one quiet evening, it became home.
My name is Kathy Garcia, to the family, Katie to some, Catherine to others, just whatever you call me, just don't call me late for dinner. And my cousin Jennifer. Jennifer,
Hi.
This is Jennifer.
Jennifer Azador Garcia.
And Jennifer and I will be sharing the history of the ranch as we know it. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my family, the Garcias. My father was Delmar. Where's Delmar? Right over here. He was third to the youngest. Jennifer's father was Joe, and he was the third born. And so I'd like to see a show of hands of the rest of the family that are here. Put your hands up, be loud and proud. Okay, there you are. Gary over here's grandfather is Dan. He was the second born in 1901. And I have to tell you, I feel pretty blessed because I knew all 14 that are up here right now. But here's where it gets tricky. Her mother is a Garcia. So a Garcia and a Garcia. But then it gets even trickier. She's Adelaida and her mother's Adelaida. They got married in 1898 and they lived in a small area over the 58 called Asfalto. And there was a cave there. I love it that you're shaking your head, Gary, because you've heard this story. And they had a cabin there. And so that was his first ranch with Adelaida. But now you probably wonder, what was the life like out here on the ranch? Well, you know, 18 kids, they didn't just stay at this ranch. They worked many ranches. They had several ranches. They would move from one ranch to another depending on the work. Was it the cattle that had to be rounded up, or was it the wheat that needed to be harvested? So they went from ranch to ranch, but they were here a lot. One thing about the Garcias is you never had a problem. If you had something break down, you fixed it the Garcia way. It was with baling wire, or it didn't matter. You could tape. I don't think they had tape. They had baling wire. They could fix anything. But at that time, they hired a school teacher. Now Jennifer's going to share that story with you.
So they were educated. These were educated kids, and living out here, you wouldn't think that, but they were. So this was in 1918. They came here, and all these pictures were from the school teacher. So the school teacher came from Los Angeles, and they just happened to come out to this ranch when they were working it. And this was like a day in the ranch at the Sauceda. They stayed out here, I think when you look at these, it was in June. So I'm sure it was very hot, but there's different pictures of all the kids here. And I remember one story that I'm gonna go off. Aunt Kay, which was one of the youngest, she talked about when she came out here, when they lived here, there was a tin roof up here, and they put all their fruit there to dry their fruit. So this was a working ranch, and you can imagine how much food they would need to feed all those children all the time. And I know my grandfather, Joe Garcia, was an amazing hunter, and I can just imagine how he killed all the things out here to bring home for food. There wasn't a grocery store anywhere near, so they were great hunters as well. So amazing cooks, amazing cooks. Yeah.
They didn't mind work. The family didn't mind work. They really didn't complain about it. Their work was what they loved. They loved the cattle. They loved the ranch. Although my Aunt Carmelita, she said in one of her diaries, she said, we canned. And then just when we thought we were done canning, we canned again. And she said that was just went on and on. We were always canning. And the boys, they were doing their horseback wrangling and doing that. One of the things you think about, these are some of the things that you might give a thought to. They didn't have cell phones out here at that time.
We don't now.
What's that?
We don't now.
Right, yeah, right, we don't now, but a lot of you have them in your pockets. They didn't have TVs. They didn't have a freeway. They didn't have radios. They didn't have cars. They did not have a car when they lived out here. They did not have paved roads. They didn't have computers. They did not have grocery stores indoor bathrooms, showers, microwave ovens, and running water. There were a lot of things that they did without.
Who remembers going to the brandings?
Oh,
Yeah, that was a big thing, right? A big thing. So the brandings, they would have the horses, right? People would come out with their horses. This is now like in the 1970s that I remember it coming out here. And then they would round up the cattle. At the time, we had about 100 head of cattle, anywhere from 60 to 125 head of cattle. They would brand the cattle, right? They'd have a big open fire pit. Later on, we had used propane to heat these up, and they would get red hot. And then you would, the two people, one would have the horns, right, or the neck. One would have the feet, and they'd stretch them. Someone would come out and flip them, and then you would brand. So it was just kind of a wonderful time to see all these cowboys, how great they were, even if they were crippled. I know one time I was thinking it must be inherited because most of the men had the missing finger from roping. And so I just thought it was an inherited gene, like something like a long ear or, a six toe. And I did not know until I was much older that some of them had it, and so I don't know how it came up. And then you found out because of the roping, it was very common for them to lose a finger, especially when they were open roping, not in a corral. So when you're open roping, if you miss, you really don't want to miss, right? That cattle is going to get away. So they ended up, a lot of them not having a finger because the rope would catch when they did their dally, and it would pull off their finger. So that was very common for the brother. I don't even know how many, but I know my grandfather, many of them had that missing finger. Enough that I thought it was strange.
As I listened to more families share their memories, I realized we weren't talking about buildings anymore. We were talking about belonging, about returning, about carrying a place with you long after you left it behind. The next morning, tea tasted just a little better. The air felt just a little quieter. And before I packed up, I realized something. Home isn't always measured in years. Sometimes it's measured in moments.
My dad was a veterinarian in Bakersfield, and ended up during the war. He was too young for World War I, too old for World War II, and so for quite a while there, he was the only veterinarian in the whole county, and he was really burned out. He came out here to do some work for Moore Wildman that had the place at the time, and he said, "If you ever want to sell this place, let me know." It was about a month later. He was contacted, and Dad bought the place and sold everything in Bakersfield, and out here we came. So the ranch is about 2,000 acres, about a mile wide, 3 miles deep. So 2/3 of it was wheat, barley, and then the higher areas there where you can't farm, you ran cattle.
Maybe that's why places like this continue calling people back. Not because they're unchanged, but because something inside us remembers how we felt while we were there. The families who gathered on the Carrizo Plain reminded me that home can last a lifetime. This quiet hill reminded me it can also last a single night. The homes may weather, the fences may fall, machinery rusts, names slowly fade from memory, yet somehow, home remains. Not in the walls, but in the people who remember. Before leaving the Carrizo, I decided to search one more time. This time, I found it. Standing beside those weathered walls, I expected to find the answer I'd been searching for. Instead, I realized the answer had come the night before. The adobe wasn't what made this place feel like home. The piece did. Maybe home isn't measured by how long we stay, but by how deeply a place becomes part of us. For one quiet night, the Carrizo Plain became home. Until next time, breathe deep, wander far, and let the noise wear off.